You know, it's interesting you bring up an engineering firm. Because engineering firms, I think, tend to still have drafting specific staff.
Yeah.
Right.
That, I mean, they literally, this is that person's job. That's all she does.
Whereas, I think in a firm like this and a firm, you know, many other firms, where you're going to be more intimately tied to that project than just handing it off. I honestly don't know if I'd advocate one person doing all the setup. Because I always enjoy those setup days to really understand the building.
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, in the old days,
Yeah.
when we would do our concept diagramming, that was the manual effort of putting the outline around the room was helping you
understand.
put the room in your head.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a good point.
I don't know. I kind of think it actually is a higher level person's almost duty, especially if you're the project manager. You need to understand how much time is going into having to document this building. Yeah, really, how much time do you need to expect your team to be able to produce? How big is it? Really getting to know the details of the building. Getting to know those strange things about heights and navigating the building will be really helpful, I think, at a higher level. Where am I going with this? Cartooning. Almost like a cartooning standpoint, it gives you that opportunity to sit there and say, we'll need a special plan here because this is a higher atrium, or we'll need a special plan on just this zone, or maybe, you know, also determining how you want things to look on sheets. Meaning, if you have a big floor plate building, someone who with some real knowledge, I think, is the one who needs to do those divisions. What showed up on the sheets, because they know what's important.
But isn't that done by the architect? And deciding where the sheets are and what sheets?
To some degree, but you have to ultimately make your own divisions here.
Well, but our sheets are just going to be for reference.
Oh, true.
Right? So we can do whatever we want.
That's a good point. They'll ultimately...
The architect usually sets, if there are going to be,
If they're
the building is
match
divided
lines.
into 10 sectors, they're going to divide up the sectors.
Yeah, I guess if you would ever want to follow that, you'd have to at that same time do a similar setup. You can't unfortunately inherit the way that they've broken it up from their file. It's you have to go back and do it. Your team will have to spend time.
So the biggest thing I think is, though, as a team, which I think is not only from the designer level to project manager level to principal level, is in our head remembering when a project starts, we need to dedicate really specific time to set up and really understand that building model and project. And I think that intuitively we should do that for other non-Revit-based projects too, but we find ways not to. But it's even more important now to really make sure that we're setting things up the way that we need to and really understanding it. So it's good to have it on all levels, that understanding that it takes some time. And it's well invested time that we really
So
need to pay attention to.
does that sit well with you guys? I mean, does that feel like that's how you experience it?
Just knowing our office, because it's Robin and I typically. We're the only two project managers that are running stuff. Because we've now taken on Christina's work since she's on
We
maternity
have a lot
leave.
of lack of time.
Yeah, so we have a lack of
Issues.
time. So like Barrett is one person that she shuffles around between all of us.
We can kind of be like, give her, comm check or something that we don't have time to do but needs to get done, and she can do. And Brandon's thinking that this is a great thing that we're designing something just because we're in this horrible crunch as because we often pick up the phone like, New York, please help, somebody help. So I do see it, but I also see. I totally see your perspective.
Especially since we're getting less and less.
It's the way that I
sets.
think, though. Also, right? Exactly. So I have a math background. I'm very mathematical. I think in 3D, and being able to kind of see that from the beginning is very helpful for me. But I also see us being here until midnight every day, and I see that end of it too, and seeing that if somebody could be doing that while I'm working on the SD layouts, that would be helpful. So I see both sides of the coin, and I don't really necessarily.
Maybe test it.
Yeah, and I also think As an example, in the LA office, there are really 3 different teams. So it might be that each team has somebody who tends to do that for their team.
Right.
But it's good if the person who's doing the work is a part of the team who's then going to participate in the design, because that process, from what I understand, helps you learn the building. Whoever's done that has learned the building. They can then very quickly turn around and in maybe an hour say, boom, 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 here's what I learned.
Right.
And here's, snap you through the building.
Right.
And so I think any team can work that way.
Yeah, that invested time in understanding doesn't get lost on someone who just hands it off. It's continued.
They continue to
Right.
participate.
And I also, I do, and I also though see the side of, or if we're not doing it, things, for instance, like I know that this space is important, and perhaps that space hasn't gotten done.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answers. And we're a weird oddity though. This office is, we're our own breed of people here, because we don't have enough people to have studios.
Yeah.
Well, but you are sort of one studio, right?
Right, we're our own studio, but I'm my studio by myself with nobody behind me. And then Brandon's his studio, and then we grab Kiri as much as we can, which isn't very often, and we grab Barrett. We fight over Barrett of who will get Barrett's time to help us. It's kind of.
Yeah. Well, let's run through this one, because the nice thing about using the project we're going to use for this basic setup is we're going to use the Long Beach County?
Long Beach Courthouse.
Long Beach Courthouse. And the interesting thing about this is it's a big model and it's a messy model. For better or for worse. And I'm sure they did a good job modeling it, but when you look at it as it comes in, it's an absolute overwhelming mess. But it's very easy once you start to filter through and you know the ways of filtering through. We know that it took a long time. It's a big model. We'll have a lot of time to talk because the files take a long time to handle.
Should we close what we have open?
Yeah, good point. We are going to close that.
And should we were in our first training session that you were not part of.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think that they did tell us was that if we're working in Revit all day, that let's just say lunchtime, we should close out of everything and restart our computer midday just to
purge the memory.
Is that something that you found, or is that?
No. I mean, Revit's very, very, very memory intensive, and that's true. So you'll notice your computer with the memory cache will just be packed solid all the time.
So you probably don't want to have other programs running.
Do as little as you can. Yeah. What do we have? 8 gigs of memory in
8
here?
gigs of memory, 64-bit Windows 7 on most. Those that don't have it will be upgraded within.
Oh, those are great machines. Those are great machines. Yeah, you won't have really too many troubles with that.
Yeah, but just like any other memory-intensive program, like if you're running an AGI Cal, you don't want to have too many other things open at the same time. It's just it's the way it goes.
Is there any benefit to turning off the computer and restarting it?
I guess just that it purges, right?
Yeah,
you would know better than me.
From a memory purge. The guy that you had training with last time said that you should restart midday to purge memory. I don't know. I think that's kind of really.
And Mike's all about restarting computers.
I am restarting computers down. I am absolutely, but I don't think it's necessary. I'll be honest with you. I think Windows 7 does a much better job of clearing memory when a program is no longer being used. So as soon as that Revit executable is done, it's going to free up that memory. If you find that, the one thing I would say though, maybe video, Peter, would you say maybe video memory would be effective?
So, but I think what does everyone have under them? NVIDIA's?
NVIDIA, yeah, most NVIDIA's, and I think 512 megabytes of video RAM.
Yeah, that's going to purge too. I would think you're fine, yeah.
Right. So I think,
sometimes you'll get messages about CPU usage being particularly high by the software.
Actually, that's a good question. A little techie, so probably my use of Peter's time. What are the multi-processing capabilities within Revit?
Very little.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very little. And my understanding is that it can't, like a multi-threaded processor, can't really take advantage of all the cores.
Really?
It's more evidently. It's more. I've spoken with some of the developers. It's more memory intensive than processor intensive.
Right, okay. I mean, because everybody's got quad cores. The newest computers are Xeon 16 core.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's out of control what we have now.
It certainly can't hurt.
That one there. If you did a task manager and look at all the processors, it's ridiculous. It'd show you how many processors it sees in Windows. It's crazy.
Mike just got very excited.
Oh, that is pretty exciting.
We're going to take this call.
That is too cool. I definitely am a hardware nerd too. I mean, I definitely like the forgive me the terminology there, but I love having seen if you can gang computers together. Revit loves added horsepower for rendering, things like that. It really starts to take advantage of it. But my understanding is that it's more of a processor of a memory thing. So let's actually start a new project based upon the template. I've actually updated that. Your new startup should have the correct logo, or how we had manipulated. R pull down, new flyout project. We'll browse to that HLB template 2012 file. Okay, so there we are. Okay. So let's just go into our views. I'm going to expand design, and let's go level 1 architectural. It's blank view. We're going to go to our insert tab. Generally from your architect, you're going to get probably minimally one file. In many cases, you'll get several. Because the software is hard on the computer, oftentimes it's broken up into separate files. So in the case of this project, there's a core and shell, and then there's generally an interiors model.
Courtrooms.
Courtrooms, okay. So we're going to link Revit. Basically what happens here, this dialog box is especially important. Let's take a look at what some of our options are. We are going to go to the Long Beach Courthouse folder. We'll hang here. Okay? Several options that you have. This positioning is especially important. You know, where is Revit's origin? Does it have a 0, 0, 0? It does. It's just very well hidden. You can't find it. There are, if you Google that, there are many discussion threads out there on how to find 0, 0, 0. It's amazingly hard. But what Revit's going to do is, if it has several files that are coming together, you have different options. Automatic center to center is not a reliable way of getting it to make sure that all the files will line up. Instead, you can do origin to origin, which Michael has utilized. The most reliable is auto, and it's by shared coordinates. Basically, this is going to establish, in the architect's file, they should have established a shared coordinate system. If you get a file from an architect that doesn't have this set up, ask them to turn on shared coordinates. Because if you're bringing in multiple files all together, it just ensures that they all are stacking in the right place.
So, in the Biogen file, is that how, since they're the first through third and fourth through sixth, that's how that would automatically...
Exactly. Exactly. So here we're going to hit automatic by shared coordinates. I never do the manual, obviously, because it's just so imprecise. Okay? But click on this LBC LTG setup file. We'll hit open. My apologies, I'm loading the wrong file. I meant to load up our core and shell file. Go to your Manage tab. and then manage links. Manage links. And I can see there, this is my XREF management point. I can see that I've brought in this file. It happens to be empty. That's one of the funny things. It happens to be empty. We're going to, if you select it, you can see there are several options. You can reload, you can unload, and you can completely remove. In my case, I'm going to hit remove. Unloads the link, that's absolutely fine. I had intended to bring our core and shell and the courtroom.
Can you also control Z and undo?
You could just undo as well. Yeah, but if you're 10 days into the project. So you go to your Insert tab, Link Revit. My apologies, it's in the Links folder. Links. Shared coordinates. We're going to do the CS model first because that's core and shell. Okay. This is where if you ever see people working for you and they're twiddling their thumbs, it's because they're waiting for the file to load.
Or at least you hope that's why.
Yeah, exactly. This is a good time to maybe check your text messages or something. It's actually okay. The files in Revit are enormously large, and it's funny. A 50 megabyte file in Revit is considered quite large. A 100 megabyte file is extraordinarily large, and after that point you need to start breaking it up. Average computer can't handle it. Which that's really not that big in terms of a computing information size. It's not that large. But to Revit, your template is already 20 megabytes. Just the starting template. It's because it's carrying all that lighting information with it. We can purge, and I'll show everyone how to purge. If you find that you're in a project and you're moving along, you're not really utilizing any of the template fixtures, or not as much as you thought you would. Maybe you're pulling in all manufacturer-specific stuff. You can purge a good bit of them.
Basically, when we send our file out, whoever has this file can steal.
That's correct.
Any of our.
That's correct.
So.
Yep. So I like to add the firm's name to anything that is specific, but you're exactly right.
So we don't want to share it without our lighting.
Yeah, no, that's exactly true. And right now, for that matter, if you went and opened up this courthouse, which I believe is an AECOM project, you get to see how their firm does things.
So if they had lighting families in there, they start stealing it.
Yeah.
Well, I think in particular when a lot of projects aren't covering full scope for lighting, we may, as the project moves along, see some of the things that the electrical engineer is using. They may use one of our fixtures. It's kind of part of the inherent game, I guess.
It is. It is, and especially with copy monitoring, which your engineers will end up doing with the lighting fixtures, is they basically make a copy of it and they bring it into their model for wiring and all of those types of things. Okay, so we have a project upgrade going on right now. It's because this courthouse file is 2011.
How come, I used to get that a lot. It would say it's a one-time process, but every time you open it, it says it's a one-time process. So it's not really, it's a one-time process for that day.
If you went in and opened up that actual file, the core shell file, they did a quick save in the current version, you would never get that again. That's correct. But when a link is one version back, yeah. If you're bringing in, say, a new lighting fixture family that was done in a previous version, and you update it, as soon as you hit save, it is permanently updated. Yeah, that is. Let's go browse in here. So you can see, it takes a long time sometimes to load these files up. And a lot of that time that you'll see is also in navigation and that setup, because the bigger the file is, but until you've started to figure out how to filter and how to see it, how it's supposed to be seen, you're seeing everything, and it's big and it's heavy, and the computer has trouble even panning. So immediately I have a few tricks for what you do to handle that. You know, I'm at 72%, and I have a pretty incredible machine here. So, you know.
Can I ask a question, I guess, while we're waiting?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the fixture families?
Yeah.
They're just reading, I guess this is kind of like the question I got directly from reading this book, but do our fixture families, our downlights, do they cut holes in the ceiling when we place them? Or
Only if the ceiling is in your same file. If you're working on an architect's linked file, it will not cut a hole.
okay, because I was reading it, it was saying like then once you start moving, if you try to move it back to where you recently placed and deleted, there'd be a hole and it wouldn't relate. So, okay.
Yeah.
That's only when you're working within their model.
If you're working within their model, it will create a hole and it will update. That hole will move with it, thankfully.
Okay.
But I've never heard of a situation with like the hole being left behind that it's cut by. Maybe the process they're talking about is if the architect has put fixtures into their model already,
I think.
but then you turn off their fixtures only to place new ones, that would leave the hole. Yeah. Other than that, I can't think of any instance where that would happen. So actually, with exactly what you were just saying, this opening thing is saying, once upgraded, the changes in the linked file won't be synchronized with our central file. It's just saying that if you upgraded that other file, it would be permanently detached from its setups.
So I just got a different coordinate systems
Yeah?
message.
Yeah, exactly. So we found out on this project that it did not have shared coordinates set up. And that's the point. If you see that come up, call and ask to have shared coordinates established. It's not absolutely necessary, but I'll show you why here in just a moment.
And I get this screen a lot when opening the long list of like ease reference types.
Yeah. Yes. So there are links going into the architecture model that aren't being held, and that's just the warning right there. It's saying, hey, maybe the structural model is missing or things like that. Okay. So shared coordinates are really critical. If you're ever doing a campus plan or something that's large, multiple buildings, it has to be in place. Otherwise, you can lose your location. You can lose your origin. Your work can get... It's not as bad as in the AutoCAD days when 0, could be off by a little bit and you could lose your origin point. But it's still, it's not catastrophic, but it's not great either. Okay, so here we are. We see a grid. Has everyone loaded? That took nearly 5 minutes to get it in. First thing I do after I start to get it set up, just do a quick Control-S or a save. You will get reminders for automatic saving. And I can actually show you where that happens. It's from your R pull down. Come over here to Options. And every user has to do this. Options. First thing you want to change, if it hasn't ever been done on your computer, is the default view discipline. Change that to electrical.
And would that be something that has to be changed on each machine?
It does.
Individual machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can those settings be exported to a file or something?
No.
No.
Isn't that odd?
Is there a registry in? I don't know if you know that far in.
Maybe I don't actually know. Maybe that change the registry so that it actually.
I don't know if there's a registry. Like if I could push out a registry update file, that's essentially an import, of the settings.
See, yeah, look into that. I would love to know if you can find a way to do it.
Yeah, it'll help us control the template.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here you can also change your save reminder interval. Excuse me. 15 minutes I think is pretty good. Synchronizing with Central, 30 minutes to an hour is fine. Unless it gets very large, but I don't think your projects will have that once we get into work sharing. Other tabs, user interface. If you like having a black background, you could change it here. But I like having the white background because personally I like to see black lines on white paper. I get confused when I see the black background. Okay. Graphics. Here we go. File locations. This is the biggie. Your template file will eventually be pointed here, or rather, for every new project, it will point to your template location. Macros, all of those things that generally none of us are having to worry about on a day-to-day basis. You set file locations for templates.
Right. The one quick question I had under the general tab, this was one of my questions, is that I believe the journals are the kind of backup files that they save.
You got it.
I would be interested in your recommendation of how many of those backups we should keep. I know that when I actually documented, I changed it to hold just 3 because, again, those backups are the same size as the original file. So from a server size standpoint, once we have to make this big push, we can't have 400,
No.
1,000.
Yeah, they're huge. How often does the server get backed up? Every night?
Yeah.
You're fine. I'd say 3 is plenty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a, talk about IT issues, that's going to become a really huge one. Is storage space for these Revit projects. And we've already run into it. I mean, I know you, Brandon, had to remove a bunch of stuff, right? I forget what the specifics was. You had to remove all the backup files, or just because you would keep downloading daily sets. So you had to keep erasing the daily sets because it was just becoming way too server disk space intensive.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to keep that journal files.
We had to do the same thing on another
yes,
larger project.
Yes, you guys had to do it, right?
We had to archive certain, but
Got it.
okay.
Yeah, that's I would think.
And let me just ask, is that something that we have to standardize, or we have to?
We should, because otherwise, again, going back to kind of the registry type thing, if that's something that we could deploy on everyone's machine firm-wide, because otherwise it will have 10.
And where do you choose? Oh, when you click save. No.
Well, every time that you click save,
Right.
it'll create this backup.
Right.
So if we tell it 3, once we get to the 4th time we click save, it'll delete the first one.
Yeah.
And under what tab is it?
Sorry, under the general tab,
General
it's
tab.
called Journal File Cleanup
Yes.
in the center there. It's similar to, thinking of AutoCAD, those .bak files that you get.
Yep.
I personally haven't run into an instance where I need them, so I've changed my personal settings so that it doesn't create those because they annoy me.
I unfortunately have.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are, but
those.
it's
What I call crying.
one of those that we're trying to limit, obviously,
Yes.
how many of
Yes.
those that we'd have. So
Well, now that we can so easily go back to a server backup.
Yeah, as long as there's a way when I
Time.
call crying and say, like, I just
Yeah.
lost 3 days of work, please help me, or I'm going to leap out the window, and there's somewhere for him to find something.
While you're on the subject of backup files, under that one it also says delete journals older than blank days. Do you need to increase it? I mean, what if, should we just keep that?
I just keep it at 1 day.
1 day?
Yeah, you really don't need.
but will that take into account, I touch it now and then 3 weeks later I have to do something, will all of those been deleted, or is
Yes.
it kind of per when you touch it?
They'll be deleted. The
I guess we're still backed up.
yeah, you're always backed up, and here's the reality too. When you're doing work sharing with work sets, you have the belt and suspenders. This is the greatest thing about Revit that's really smart about it, is everybody's working on a project has a local copy on each one of their desktops. But you have this centralized version everybody's saving to, and at any moment in time, if that central file becomes corrupted or you lose something, you can always go back to one of your local copies and make that your central. So there's a safety net there that is not there with AutoCAD. I feel very comfortable. You could set that at 3 and 1, I think. Go very, very low. Don't rely on server backups, because your work sharing, your central file, will have, by default, 20 rolling backups
Oh, when you say central file, where is that central file?
on your server somewhere. So it's really nice. There's this file out here on your server that each one of these users is connected to, and they're saving their changes to it.
We haven't had to do that yet because we haven't had multiple people, and I don't know how to do it. probably also understand.
We've had multiple people, and that has brought up a work sharing issue of relinquishing rights.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't relinquished the right and then you're out the next day for
Yep.
whatever reason,
Yeah.
that becoming
Biogen?
biogen, that becoming a disaster, people getting a little angry with people.
Yeah.
So so I think that that's also something that at some point we need to all talk about, not
Yes.
perhaps right now, but just the way that we kind of work and our our ground rules of what we do within the day.
Yeah.
If you relinquish all your rights or when you close a file, what we do so that we don't run into these issues, no one's feelings are getting hurt, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, fortunately, is laid out here in the legends and the HLB processes. It's been done. A lot of that has been set up here in the work sharing area. It's a legend type HLB processes. LA office put together this, and it really is pretty good. May want to put it into a Word doc or something, but for the most part, it's really good. Yeah. Saving the central, knowing to get out there. We'll touch on that a bit more. Talk about setup. Work sets would be something that we will set up at a later time. Whoever's setting up a project, you will be setting up your work sets. But let's type. One more. Let's go Revit link again. And bring in the CT model. CT, also try to do it by shared coordinates. We'll get the same error. CT model.
I just got asked to save the project.
You can save it, I guess. Yeah, let's everyone have their own version of it locally. It certainly can't hurt.
And then I guess this brings up the question of should we be saving these locals to our desktop?
Yeah, or your U-Drive, is the U-Drive a shared drive? Or
User drive, personal drive.
Personal
drive.
Yeah.
I think for this, it would make most sense just to save your desktop.
I guess the
absolutely.
question is in general for
For future.
real life projects. Our last training said save to desktop, but I don't know if that's
Well,
what
that's your
we
local
want
file.
to save.
Yeah, that'd be your
Oh,
local
is this
file.
not our? This is not
This
our
is the
local
project.
file.
Yeah, since we haven't enabled work sharing yet, we're kind of in a different.
Okay.
Yeah, we are in the central file
central
right
file.
now. Just for this example, put it on your desktop.
Yeah.
So should
Well-
we call this central then? Call this our central file?
I think one of the things we as a team will need to develop is some sort of naming standard.
Naming standard.
In particular
files
for central, stuff like that.
Naming standard.
Uh,
Path structure.
Well, that's.
How-
I mean,
no, that's not on
No,
you.
no,
Yeah,
that's
I
just
know.
that's a global.
That's a
kind of
an
global
HLB
thing.
standard. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, for the time being, I'd just save it on your desktop, whatever you want to call it.
Thanks,
Well,
that makes sense.
The other thing to remember here is that when you're saving it local to desktop, you're working off your local disk. There's no network bottleneck when you're working on a server. And a server, I mean, let's be realistic. It's not going to ever really get bogged down where it's going to be serving out files slowly. But if there's the slightest bit of noise on your network connection or something that's slowing you down, that's going to be a failure you don't want to deal with. You're better off working locally for a large Revit file and then saving it copying it, moving it to the server for later. I think it's going to give you better performance, really.
Agreed, yeah, entirely. I think that's the reason that probably under the hood, that's why they said for work sharing, we'll have people work locally and then saving back to that thing only once in a while, avoiding those bottlenecks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how large are those Revit. Once the Revit project is really robust, how large do those files get? Gigabytes? Hundreds of megabytes?
Well, I'd say 100 megabyte Revit file is
I
about
think-
the largest.
Ours, when we're linking in stuff, doesn't get that large, but we'll receive from architects 250.
Okay, so they can get, see, every time that you are working with a file on the network, 250, and it's got to keep doing this reading and writing off the network, you're really going to get slowed down. You're better off working local. It's going to read right off your local disk. That's a fast connection. It takes the network out of the equation, and it's a little bit better way to go. Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, that's probably why they did work sharing like that. I got the second file, and did everyone else?
Still going.
Still going?
Oh my good.
Okay, so what we have here looks like a grid. The architect had set up a sheet guidance grid. I don't know why they had done it quite this way, but where there were like documentation zones. And watch what happens when we zoom out. ZE. You know, mess of stuff. Okay, and it's really, really hard. Where do you begin as a person who's setting up, right? Like, oh my gosh, I have to suddenly make RCPs and plan views and all these things out of this file, right? Okay, well, there's one saving grace here. You can hover over something and hit tab. It basically filters through everything that's below your cursor. So if you hit tab and then left click there, okay, I was able to select, even in the linked file, that object. Okay? And it says, when I look over at my properties, it says, it's an AECOM model grid array. Tab one more time. Okay. And I find out when I hit edit type. Okay. You have to drill in a bit further. I hit edit type, but I found out just after reading a little bit that this is a generic model. And a generic model, if we go into VG generic model is used by a variety of, it's used for a variety of things rather. It's not specifically architecture, not specifically MEP, but in general, we can just turn off generic models. Uncheck that. Hit apply.
Wait,
Yeah, I am way behind you.
I'm not following.
Because it just loaded for me.
So I hover over it, I hit tab.
Yep. Left click. Yep. And look at that AECOM model grid array. When you hit edit type, you can drill in and you can find out it's a generic model. Yeah. Say that one more time, Mike.
It saved me. I mean, I found ways. I went into the visibility graphics and I did it different ways. But I mean, just doing that will speed up the process immensely. And it just makes it easier to read.
Generic model. What does that?
Well, first thing when I open the file, I'm like, what kind of object is that? I'd never seen anything like it.
Turn off the grid.
Yeah,
That's
so
telling you what
generic
it
model.
is.
told me what it was. Yeah. So I think, yeah, Michael and I have had this discussion. It's kind of like you need to go explore the architecture model in a way to know even how to filter it, and you're going to find all kinds of funny things.
So it's essentially like in CAD some ways telling you the layer that it's on. So
Correct.
you can turn off
Yeah.
the layers.
Yep.
So you can see where it's going on.
Yep, exactly. The other way I could have done that is hovering over it, tab, left click. You can right click and go hide in view, and then category. That should get me. It does the exact same thing. I hid the generic model category without me having to know it's a generic model. Okay. So here we are. What's strange about this is, wow, we're seeing, some information here, but we're not really seeing any walls. Not really sure what's going on. And this is the CS model. I'm not seeing the courtroom model. It's because it's up. Okay, so something is strange here. We're not seeing any walls, and that's very, very odd. The other thing is we're seeing an awful lot of reference planes, things like that, kind of getting in the way. This says to me right off the bat that there are some level differences. Then we need to really go see what the architect's levels are doing. So first thing that I normally do is I'll zoom out here. I'll go to my View tab, and I'll cut a section through. Left click on the section tool, and it's like drawing a line in AutoCAD. Left click to start it. Go here, left click to end it. It's going to chug for a moment. But after I've created that section, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say, go to view. Okay, there we go. So that's helpful. At least we can start to see what's going on.
Can you explain how the view depth works?
Yeah, here just for the section?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the view depth, what's nice about this in plan, Brandon's point is, when you highlight that section, you have some grip control on how far in you're looking. Okay? Obviously, sometimes we just want to take a very thin slice of the building. Other times we want to look all the way in. That's also controlled over here in the properties. When you select that section, you're able to control your clipping.
But does that say, so like, if I took that grip and moved it all the way past the edge of the building,
Yes.
does that say that from my line to wherever I'm looking, if it hits a wall, it's gonna draw that first wall that I see?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. This is particularly helpful if you have things in the distance that you want to show.
But will it show that stuff it'll show the stuff in the distance too?
Well, as of right now, I'm taking only a thin slice that's 10 feet.
Right. But like,
If I pull the grip out.
yeah. So, but is it gonna just draw this wall and then stop, or is it gonna draw everything behind it as
It's
well?
going to draw everything behind it, but it's not going to like use X-ray vision and see through. If you have a wall in front of other walls,
Yeah. So it'll when you look at that view,
Respect
it'll
it.
stop. What
Yeah.
it'll only show you this, but it's still gonna draw this. Okay.
correct. So, yeah, let's leave it pulled out. It certainly doesn't hurt. So here we are in this view. Now, one of the big problems I saw initially with this file is, and with anyone, remember when we were planning, there was something wrong. So, first thing is, it's a level issue. Got to be a level issue. So drill in, go take a look at your levels. Okay, well here we are. This is helpful because I'm realizing that ground level is actually, I guess in TOS or top of steel.
Top slab, I think.
Top of slab is actually a bit higher. Okay. So, first thing we need to do, I'm going to do a ZE again. Our little level mark.
So here, can you just back up one hot second?
Yep.
How do I see into my section? I have a section like line.
Okay. And then you can click on that section, right click, and go to view. Go to section view.
Go to view. Thank you.
Go to view, and it should cut through. Okay. So our levels are funky. Secondly, I noticed this as well. The models did not come in at the same place, unfortunately, in the Z coordinate. That's particularly troublesome. There's a few things that we can do. We can either use our align command to handle that, but you can see here's our here's this one model. This is the CT model. And it's not coming in at the same Z coordinate, so that's particularly troublesome. We can use our align command. Fortunately, there are column grids. If you had shared coordinates in place, you wouldn't have to do this at all. But you can use your align command. Remember that? AL. And we're going to just go ahead and align two common column grids. I'm going to look for, in my case, I'm going to look for line F.
Should we go right to left? I guess which are you clicking on first? So
I would think so. E. There's F. You click first on the lower model. You click first with the align command on the line that you want to align to. So the thing that you want to stay in place, you click that first. Then secondarily, you click the thing that you want to move. So there's line F selected. And I'm going to come over here to line F in the other model. And I'm going to click that line. See there, it moves over.
But in our real world scenario, if we run into this situation, to be frank, we should be putting down our pencils and calling the architect saying,
Entirely.
because if we just move to the left, but we should be moving to the right, our stuff's all going to be wrong.
Correct. Yeah, it really comes down to the architect needing to have shared coordinates in place. and you don't want to start a project until it's in place. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so what you would do, and that, just to take this file out of the equation, it's troublesome. What you would do, the next thing is you would move the levels down so that they align with one another as well.
And do you do the same align?
Do the same align thing. Just to make it very easy, let's just hit delete on that. Okay?
We're deleting
deleting the upper file. Yeah, to make it easier.
Now, if we deleted here, is that the same as when we went to last time and managed links? Is it going to delete it there as well?
Do it really fast. Look at the error that pops up.
Oh.
It's curious. You can remove link. It says, oh, you want to remove the link. In our case, let's just hit OK, which means it's going to unload it. It's still there if we want to go back to it. Okay? But the big thing is we need to figure out what's going on level-wise here. Okay? So if I do a zoom extents, our little, by default, there's a level in every Revit project. And you can't delete that one level. But what you want to do is you want to inherit these levels from the architecture file, right? So we're going to do something called Copy Monitor. Okay, it's on the Collaborate tab. We're going to hit Copy Monitor, and we're going to do the fly down.
Sorry, one quick question before we go to that. So these levels that are in the model that we're looking at, so there's blue and black levels, those are the ones that the architect has already set up, right?
Correct. Correct. A black level head means that there is a floor plan view associated with it. A blue level head means that there's no floor plan associated, and it's not a problem. It'll still both print as black. Okay. So Copy Monitor, select link. Select link, and we're going to try to select that architecture file. Sometimes you have to zoom out to be able to select it.
So you want to hit that outer box or the purple that's...
I actually tried to hit a piece of the building. The outer box didn't let me do it.
Yeah, how do we know if we've selected it?
Okay, you'll know that you've selected it when you look in the upper left-hand corner of the drawing area and you see these copying selections. You'll see Copy Monitor, Coordination Settings, and Batch Copy. Okay, so we're going to hit Copy. And there are several items that you can copy. Levels, grids, walls, floors, roofs, those types of model elements, and guide elements. Fortunately, can't do ceilings as much as we would really, really like to. But let's just go ahead and hit Copy, and then up here, hit Multiple in the upper left. Copy, Multiple, and we're going to grab really every major level. Left click.
And then we just click on those things?
Just click on each level as you're going. Site, who knows, we may have some site lighting.
Can we click on the line that's inside the box or outside the box?
I think you have to click inside of the box. Yeah. Let's just do primary levels. Levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll, of course, skip the top of steel levels. And maybe we'll just do level R2.
So is the ground level the top one?
I think so.
The top, this one?
The uppermost. Yeah, the other top
Did you
of
just grab
steel.
RT? Did you say?
Any one of them, RT, R1. We probably won't make a plan. When you're done with all of this, you hit Finish. This is all that we're really going to copy monitor are their levels. We'll hit Finish.
Will it give you a list?
Copy. My apologies, my multiple did not work that first time through, copying multiple. Not sure why.
It's running the same issue.
Okay.
Press control.
And then control, that did it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So copy multiple wasn't working, but if you copy singly, finish it up. There we go, now we have the levels, at least in my model. And it's created as you go. Okay, great. Okay, so just while everyone's doing this, this is creating an intimate link between your levels and what the architect is going to be doing. So if they change a level and its height, you will get a notification on like a subsequent model. When you update their model, you'll actually get a notification that level, whatever has changed, or all of the levels have changed their heights. Okay. So from here, I actually would say that we should go into VG after we've made the levels. Go VG, go all the way to the far right to Revit links. And uncheck both of those just for the moment. Let it apply. And OK. And there we are. In section, we have just our levels showing up. That's what you should have. They're still in there. The links are still there. But we have our just basic levels so that we kind of get an idea of knowing where things are. Go in there and check that you copied the correct ones. Last thing you want to do is realize, oops, I didn't copy the right one. Okay, so what is good here is I see that our ground level floor plan is 4 feet up. That's why we weren't seeing any of our other walls and things like that. Okay, so we're going to go back to this level 1 architectural. We're almost going to ignore that for the time being. We're going to go to View tab, Plan Views, Plan Views Flyout. Now, I don't know how often we need to do floor plans, but more so we'll probably just do ceiling plans, I would imagine, right? Okay, so let's just do ceiling plans. Plan views, reflected ceiling plan. Check this out. It has every level that you just made in there. And what you're going to do is use Shift, highlight all of this. And then you can set the scale if you want to. Let's just start at 8. And we'll hit OK.
Sorry, I just want to get this down.
Yeah. You have extra views? Oh, you just probably... You selected more. Not a problem at all.
Just select the ones that we have.
Yeah, perfectly fine. Yeah. Okay.
Looking at our time again, we've got about an hour. Still slated.
Cool. So we have, and I think this is the bulk of it. It's surprising how much time this really does take.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit OK. This will give us a plan view for a reflected ceiling plan for every one of those views. It's going to by default cut at 7.6, which is generally okay. It's going to also open up all those views at the same time, for better or worse. So you will have, at this point in time, you probably have 8 or 9 views that are open. You may want to, just for computing speed, hit Close Hidden Windows. Okay. And then where did all those views go? Right? Expand the little question mark that has been slowly growing each one of these views, I wish you could do this as a group using Control and Shift. But if you select all of them, it's the view usage parameter that's going to guide how they are utilized. And there it is. It'll actually let me shift all of them at one time. I'm going to delete my original plan view because it's just not useful. And for that matter, I'm going to make site. Site isn't going to be my major view. Ground level floor plan, here we go.
How did you just move all of those?
So, you have them all highlighted.
Yes.
Look over in your properties browser for view usage. It's this one right there. And then click over there in that field and change it to a design. Here you see us click on design and we'll fill that. And so that's how it sorts. It gets out of the question marks. Yep, and then hit apply. It should move them all.
Mine's not moving all of them.
Is it doing them one at a time? Yeah, sometimes it's finicky and it does that.
It would probably delete the original.
Okay, let's go back into, let's open up our ground level floor plan. Okay. We're going to go into VG. I'm sorry, ground level ceiling plan. VG. We're going to hit Revit links. And we're going to hit display settings. Okay? In your native file, you have a VG setup, and for every view you have setups, but you can also control the linked files VG settings. That's what we're about ready to do. So right now your display settings are by host view. Instead, we're going to click that, and we're going to say it's by linked view. Right here, this little radio button, rather than being by host view, changes to by linked view. There we go. Okay. We have to change the view type. Because, what's that?
What does this do?
So what this is doing is it's saying whatever the architect's RCP looks like, we basically just want to copy that right now. Did you go through this process?
No, well, no. This is why I almost jumped out of the window, which we're not on 2 floors, so we wouldn't have done much. But it was not being able to make an RCP look like an RCP. So this is something that I found out later on that, again, can save you a lot of time. Just to make things look right.
We're basically just going to copy their, look at this. I'm going to go down to their ground level RCP. And I'm going to inherit immediately the properties of what that ground level RCP looks like.
Did you go overall RCP? Or ground level design?
There it is.
Which ground level did you take?
Yeah. I took the VG, Revit links, by linked view, and there was just a plain ground level RCP. Let's try ground level RCP link. Your architect is going to have to point you to the best view to mimic or copy. And that looks like the major one that they have. Okay, so there aren't any grids showing up, right? Things like that.
So do we do that for both files? Or just one?
I used to for the one. The other one's unloaded.
But if you had multiple files in there, then you probably would
Yeah.
want to do that. we're kind of ignoring that second file right now. So.
Yeah, exactly. So you basically then would do that for each and every level. You just say, okay, do it by length view, but check this out. I'm going to take my ground level plan, right click, and hit create view template from view. And you're going to call this RCP, linked RCP.
Can you go over there?
Right click from your project browser
Yeah.
on your view that you like. Do you like how you set it up? Right click on it and then hit create view template from view.
And then what did you call it?
I call it just linked RCP. It won't always work perfectly because we are going to have to still go back in here and tell it which RCP to look at, but at least it's a, it's a good starting point. So we'll hit OK. Basically, this is making a view template, okay, that you can then apply multiple times to other views.
Does it just tell it to go to the linked, or is it going to tell it, like if we go to level 3, is it going to tell it to pull whatever was the ground level?
It probably is going to do the latter. So we'll have to go in
that
there.
Your architect set
Exactly.
all those levels the same.
Exactly. Hopefully they did.
Okay.
But you select a group of views, then you can right click, apply view template. You select your linked RCP. Okay. We'll hit apply. And OK. To see how this worked out, I'm going to go to level 2. And it looks like for level 2, VG, we need to go to Revit links. And we need to, exactly like Michael was just saying, go to reflected ceiling plan for level 2, which level 2 RCP. See how they have views for linking and working? Let's see what this looks like. But yes, you'd have to do it for each and every one. It's a little bit easier when you're not dealing with different levels to make a view template and then copy it around over and over and over. The few other things that you can do, applying a default view template. Once it realizes it's an RCP, it starts to kind of catch up with the user. And you can right click and say apply default view template. Apply default view template. I do that for each and every level. If your initial templating didn't work out correctly. Let's go ahead and check this out, just make sure we are looking at the right things. Revit links.
Is this a process that gets done, as we were saying, someone delegating a day or two to kind of setting up a Revit file?
Yeah.
For every Revit file you link into your model, will you have to go back and do this?
You do.
Okay.
You do. Yeah, you'll have to just say, okay, you can tell it to be governed by the host view. Sometimes it works out, but in the more messy ones, like what we saw with this AECOM grid and everything, it's just really confusing. Trying to get that to, trying to figure out how to navigate that. As we keep working our way up, the RCPs are getting better. I'm not seeing any interior walls. And the funny thing about this too is that we're seeing plumbing fixtures, which is very strange. Okay, so what we could do there is we could go back into VG, Revit links, by linked view. But look at this. Yeah, why they have plumbing fixtures on, I'm not really sure. That's one thing where you would want to say to your architect, say, hey, did you know that you have plumbing fixtures on in your RCP? You know? And that you'll have to have them come back and, I guess, work on that file for you. Turn that over. Okay, so you can start doing a little bit of poking around in the architecture model. We're with tab and hover over things. Hit tab a few times. Do you find some fixtures in there, or you just place some fixtures?
This is on level 2.
Okay.
There are some fixtures that were in there.
Ah, okay, great. Yeah. Okay, so level 2. Let's see if I can find those as well.
But still no ceiling. Yeah, this was my world about 6 months ago.
Yeah. Oof.
It was a lot of fun.
Still no ceilings though. Yeah, I'm still not getting.
So these always sort underneath the trees. They always sort alphabetically.
They do.
So in order to get them to sort correctly, we have to put a number or whatever in front of them.
Interesting. Okay, so here we are. You know, one issue is that we're still seeing toilets. So I can't select them. I'm trying to hover over it. Not sure why I'm seeing it. Unfortunately, this may be one of those things you just have to go back to the architect. Otherwise, you can go into VG, Revit links, display settings, make it custom. Okay. Hit custom. Go to model categories. Change it from being by linked view to making it custom. And we'll go in here and we'll take plumbing fixtures out. Everyone see that? So we're still letting the linked view guide much of the process for us, or at least of the cutting, but we're saying that we want to do some additional culling of the model categories that are showing up. So that's what we did right there. Okay, so let's take a look here at time.
One thing I also wanted to mention, when we bring a Revit link in, we should be locking that
Good point.
link in place.
Select it, select the link, and immediately we're going to do something called pinning. When you select it, thank you for pointing that out.
I've been copy monitor this entire time.
Oh, you've been in Copy Monitor. Oh, just hit finish. It'll get you back out.
Does that matter?
No, not really.
Okay.
So if you select the link, left click on it once, and hit pin. Pin.
Left click or right click?
Left click the model, and then it's an icon. That pin is an icon that pops up on the ribbon.
Oh.
And then that locks in place. If anyone tries to move that, let's just give it a try really fast. Select that linked model. MV for move. Left click to set a base point, and we'll see if we can move it a few feet. Get that error. So it says, no, can't move pinned elements. Very, very, very good thing to have in place.
I think one of the frustrating things that you'll, at least that I always notice, is that when you have that highlighted, you can see that there are ceilings there. And again, we just can't see them,
Yes.
which is why it gets frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a very strange thing going on here. I'm not quite sure why we can't see the patterns. But we're going to go in and take a look here. We're going to go back into VG. Model categories, ceilings, we're going to expand. There's nothing in there that's saying why they're not showing up. It's showing up as custom. The patterning's all on. Everything's looking like it should be on. We'll hit OK.